We're in the Queen's Ballroom on the public route in the State Apartments at Windsor Castle, and we're looking at one of Van Dyck's greatest portraits, the 5 eldest children of Charles I. Royal portraiture in general is intended for a public audience and tends therefore to stress the status and authority of the sitter. But occasionally, royal portraits are commissioned with a much more domestic and private intention, and it looks as if the 5 eldest children was in that category. The central figure, Charles, Prince of Wales, subsequently Charles II, certainly looks as if he's attempting to stare manfully at the camera, as it were, or at the artist, the 17th-century equivalent, in a way that suggests the authority of a future king. And there may even be intended a slight echo of the pose of Henry VIII in the famous mural painted by Holbein in Whitehall Palace, the place where this painting by Van Dyck originally hung. So a kind of echo between a past and a future king. When we look around the figure of the Prince of Wales, the eldest son, we see that it's much more intimate and perhaps charming or more domestic. And there are two ways in which this is shown. The first is the simple matter of viewpoint. Most public portraits of authority create the effect of a viewpoint from below the sitter, so that we, the subject or the viewer, are looking up at the sitter. But in this case, if you look at the surface of the table on the right-hand side, you see that the viewpoint is slightly higher than that table, which means that it is on an eye level, or even maybe possibly slightly above level of the principal figure, the Prince of Wales, Charles II. In other words, we are not looking up at the Prince, we are looking straight at him, which I think implies that our view is not that of the public, but that of the parent, King Charles I, Queen Henrietta Maria, looking at their children. That viewpoint creates a certain kind of direct communication, which implies an element of intimacy. Other features which play along with this is the way in which the younger children are disposed around the central figure of Charles II. On the left-hand side, with reasonable elements of solemnity, the two more grown-up children, Mary, Princess Mary, future Princess of Orange, and between Mary and Charles, James, Duke of York, future James II. They're grown up enough to sort of know how to behave, whereas on the other side, on the right-hand side, the two younger princesses, neither of whom survived to adulthood, Princess Elizabeth and Anne, are too young, really, to know how to stand still. So the Princess Elizabeth is looking after the baby, but the baby is getting sort of understandably excited by the situation, is reaching out to call to his eldest brother or to touch something, and is bringing the portrait to life. But I think the final twist that pulls in the domestic element is, are the two dogs. The small spaniel, sort of eager and alert and sort of anxious to please, almost like a canine equivalent of the two youngest children looking up at Charles II. But most entertaining of all is the huge Mastiff that is in a crouching position with Charles II with his hand resting masterfully on the dog's head, as if he's a kind of image of the monarch keeping under control the realm that he is superintending. But even as we look at that relationship, we think to ourselves, in a few moments' time, that dog is going to get onto its feet and those children are going to be scattering in all directions. It has that sort of play that a lot of later portraits of children makes much of, that children are anxious to adopt the solemn positions and are anxious to play act the roles of adult life, but there is always something which will undermine that play acting and remind you that they are just children.